41st time in Bobby Hurley's tenure, and the Arizona State basketball team found themselves down at half, and they come through in the second half, getting that comeback win tonight against SMU, 76-74. Nick Borgia of Devil's Digest joined alongside publisher Hode Urbino. And Hode, in contrast to the last two games we saw here at home for the Sun Devils, this one was back and forth. At some points, it seemed like ASU was in full control, and at other points, it seemed like SMU was in full control.
Yeah, it really was just a crazy up and down game for the Sun Devils. They did lead 18-8 early in the first half, but from that point on, SMU outscored Arizona State 32-18, had only a 4-point advantage at halftime. But the second half, pretty early in that period, they went on a 10-0 run. They actually led by 13 points at the 11:28 mark, and things really looked bleak for Arizona State, especially when it came to the paint game. They were out rebounded in a gross manner, I would say, on the offensive side. Points in the paint, SMU had 20 in the first half, 42 for the entire contest. They were really having their way with Arizona State, but it really just came down to that trademark Bobby Hurley defense, which we saw so much of it last year, and in this very young season, we're seeing it time and time again. This was a game where ASU went to the line 43 times. If that's not an all-time high under Bobby Hurley, it has to be right there in the top three. It's a game that they missed 8 free throw shots in the second half. They're only 1 of 8 from the three-point line. So how does ASU generate a comeback? Well, the same way ASU generated a lot of other comebacks under Bobby Hurley, and that's with their defense. They were able to force 11 turnovers in the second half alone. They had 22 fast break points, which I believe is the same exact figure they had in the win against San Francisco a few nights ago. So for ASU, the formula is pretty much a wash, rinse, repeat. We just didn't know if we were going to see that formula at all in the second half, just because the exceptional paint game that SMU had, I would say, for the first 30 or so minutes of the game. But down the stretch, Arizona State came up big. And again, it's just the same old story. The defense fuels their offense.
So let's start with the defense that you're talking about. Like you said, Arizona State found themselves with their backs against the wall midway through that second half, and it was that full court press that they like to deploy that generated a lot of turnovers and a lot of fast break points. What did you see defensively from Arizona State that really allowed them to take control and regain control of the game?
Yeah, when you have that full court press with somebody like Alonzo Gaffney, who probably has close to a 7-foot wingspan, maybe even more than that. You have Frankie Collins. I think Bobby Hurley said is like the midfielder or the safety in football, just in the middle over there to really create a lot of havoc. He had 4 steals tonight, which pretty much is a ho-hum night for Frankie Collins in that category. So I also felt like the effort was much better. I mean, rebounding, a lot of people will tell you that lack of size can hurt you, but the effort and the tenacity that you show on the boards that can really compensate for that. And Bobby Hurley said, and I think it was evident throughout the game, this was one contest they definitely missed 7-foot center Sean Phillips. Even in the wins against San Francisco and the game before that against UMass Lowell, I don't know if the absence of Sean Phillips was that great, but tonight that definitely played a factor again for the first 30 minutes. But Arizona State was able to just do a much better job on the boards, even though SMU shot 46% in the second half, which you really think that's not a recipe for your opponent to generate a comeback on. But nonetheless, they did miss some shots when Arizona State went on that monster, I think it was a 19-2 run or 19-4 run at one point. So, when those shots weren't falling, Arizona State was making sure that they were securing the caroms. And again, when their defense generates the offense, and that fast break points was absolutely huge for Arizona State. They were able to get in transition, very, very quickly. I mean, sure, the half-court offense was not working for them. And very late in the game, when SMU really forced ASU to that half-court offense, the Sun Devils were having problems. I mean, think about it this way. In a comeback win, ASU did not score a field goal in the last 3:47 of the game. But free throws. Even though they missed, like I said, 8 free throws for the entire second half, they did make them down the stretch when it did matter. So, again, really a bizarre win for Arizona State, if you will. I mean, you just see a lot of metrics that you don't expect would translate into a comeback win. But as I said in my tweet earlier, death taxes and have a halftime comeback win under Bobby Hurley. Things we have learned to accept over here in Tempe.
So you've already touched on it, but offensively, there's really no stats that jump off the page except for those fast break points and that heavy free throw disparity. It was none other than Jose Perez leading the charge tonight. He got to the line 15 different times. He was 12 of 15 from the free throw line, and he had a solid performance nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, we joke about his old man, 25-year-old game, but that's what it is. I mean, he goes there in the mid post. Either he scores or generates fouls, and like you said, Nick, he generated a lot of fouls from SMU. When he was scoring, he had some of those awkward YMCA layups. Where you think like, how the heck is that ball going in? I did ask Jose Perez last time he scored 20 points. Do you feel like you're really in the groove and the chemistry is okay? He says, no, I have a lot of rust to knock off. Tonight was his third 20-point game of the season. I asked him, so do you feel now there's still rust to knock off? He says, no, I'm in the groove. I'm okay. Really, this team is going to rise and fall on the play of Jose Perez. Full disclosure, I made a tweet that probably got exposed in cold tweets or whatever the account name is. I said, I don't know how ASU is going to mount a comeback with Jose Perez on the bench because he did have 4 fouls in the second half. But sure enough, that defense, even without Jose Perez, was able to generate just enough offense to grab the lead for good. And when Jose Perez came in, like I said, just that 25-year-old body, bodying up defenders that are 5-6 years younger than him. And it might sound simplistic. It might sound even almost borderline ridiculous that it's like a very simple formula that just works time and time again. But the amount of times that he was able to get to the line, the amount of defenders he was able to draw around him and really find the open man, I think that was huge. Frankie Collins had 17 points. Alonzo Gaffney did have also double digits, 11 points. I thought Kamari Lands, 9 points off the bench was huge. If you remember the last game against San Francisco, there was 0 points from the bench, and Bobby Hurley made a point actually to mention Kamari Lands and saying, look, I mean, it's going to go down for him, and I think his 9 points off the bench were really huge. Some huge free throws in the end for Arizona State. So again, the offense, wasn't doing really much at all from 3-point range. Half court offense, like I said, especially down the stretch, was really struggling. But if their defense can generate their offense, then that's going to be a formula that's really going to be hard for every Arizona State opponent to beat. And SMU is just one of those opponents that fell victim to that approach that Arizona State was able to employ.
So Arizona State improved to 6-2 on the season. Next up, they've got the University of San Diego. It's also a 6-win team, and they're hitting the road after this 3-game homestead. They've got to feel good. They take care of business at home, which is what you're supposed to do at this point in the season, winning 3 straight here. Yeah,
and I think you and I talked after the first game of this 3-game homestand that ASU really is going to be defined by this the 3-game stretch. We talked about the rough outing they had in Vegas with that lopsided loss to BYU, was able to bounce back very nicely against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, by the way, lost to San Francisco earlier tonight. So if that kind of makes sense where Arizona State is in terms of their abilities, you can go ahead and draw your own conclusions. But I felt it was very, very important for Arizona State to start stacking the wins to really build more confidence and more momentum. I mean, on paper, it's an easy road game at the University of San Diego, but a week from Saturday, they're on the road at TCU trying to avenge that NCAA tournament loss from last season. So it's really important, really, for Arizona State to take care of the games that are winnable in their schedule. And I'm not saying that TCU is just a game that you put in a loss column, right away. But it's definitely going to be a more challenging game than they had tonight. So it's good to get the win tonight. Like I said, really protect home court. ASU is still undefeated over here at Desert Financial Arena, so that's huge. Even though as young as the season as it is, I think it's still a statement that the Sun Devils are able to make. So. We've always talked about when the chemistry and cohesiveness of this team is really going to show, that's when we're going to see a better Arizona State team. And they're dealing, for the umpteenth time, we'll mention the injuries to Sean Phillips. Zane Meeks still out, at least for a week. And with Adam Miller still waiting on his eligibility notice from the NCAA, did have a tweet earlier today that really showed somebody in distress, and Bobby Hurley was very transparent and said that he's really just going through some mental health issues now. That's why Adam Miller was not on the bench tonight, by the way. So that's kind of a sad twist to a story of a team that is really coming together with so many new pieces and really gelling, really having their defense, playing at a high level. Meeks and Phillips are going to be back probably by the end of December sometime. Adam Miller is a really big question mark. But if by some miracle you get Adam Miller back on top of Phillips and Meeks, and I'm telling you, I think this ASU team can really surprise even myself with my preseason outlook on this squad. But first things first, you got a road game at San Diego. I believe it's the first true road game of the season because they played in neutral courts so far. So curious to see if Arizona State can really take that momentum and take that confidence to a game that's on the road, but also a very winnable game. But right now, there's a lot of things that are clicking for Arizona State. And again, it all starts with the defense. When that defense is really clicking on all cylinders, it didn't do maybe the first 30 minutes, but really clicked in the last 10, 11 minutes. This Arizona State team is going to be a tough out for every opponent.
All right, Hodel, thank you so much for your insight, for your continuous coverage of this Arizona State basketball team as they hit the road. Keep it locked in at DevilsDigest.com, and please follow us on Twitter at DevilsDigest. That's Hodel Rubino. My name is Nick Borgia. We thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.